There are many things you can do to improve your fishing, and one is observing fish in their habitat to learn their behavior and characteristics. That is what we are going to do in this series of underwater episodes. Today we're looking at a mid-sized river of moderate flow in early September and observing primarily bull trout with some juvenile trout. The water clarity is very high as cold temperatures have killed off most of the algae, and the recent rains have flushed out most debris as well. Now here we have a juvenile trout, approximately 12 to 14 centimeters in length, likely a fish that was born in the spring, just been nursing in the river. Now we start to see some larger bull trout moving up through the deeper part of the run. You can kind of just see them on the center right there. The lead fish, probably a female judging by the less pronounced back, seems more skittish with her fins held tight to her side as she approaches. And she kind of turns away, probably as my camera moved too fast. Two large males, though, seem quite unperturbed. One actually starts to come towards the camera here. You'll notice that it just barely flinches even when I hit a rock with the camera. And there we go. It wasn't really until the fish was inches away and the camera moved abruptly that that fish eventually veer off. Then they both orientate themselves back to the center of the run, drop back down near the shelter of a large boulder down below the left-hand part of the screen. I do find it interesting, though, that they made a direct line for me, as if determining if I was a threat or perhaps food. Now we pan down a little bit further down the run. We see those same bull trout settled back down, sort of over by that boulder. Now we focus more on a bull trout that's sitting further out from us, but closer to the front of the pool, where it first kind of drops off. This is more likely an active fish, holding at the head of the pool in a feeding line to pick off food as it spills into the run. He's sort of the first in line you might save for the food trough. Now it seems to spot something and rises several feet to grab whatever it is on the top that interests it. And here we are without our mouse patterns. This isn't really that common to see. Rolling and porpoising from big bull trout, yes, but rarely do I see this. I can't really determine if the fish was rising to something, but the bubbles flushing through its gill plates afterwards when it goes back down suggests that the fish engulfs significant air as if taking something right off the top. And then we see it turns back down, returns to its sole location near the head of the run. Was it taking a large mayfly off the surface? There was some hatching alright, and I've had that happen with bulls before, taking dries off the surface, but whatever it was far too small for me to see in this case. Now again, we pan a little bit further down the run. As we look further, we can actually see that there are several bull trout in the deeper portion of the run, more sitting further back in the pool than at the head, or than on the edges. They are also tucked in near the bottom. You can just make out more and more white-tipped fins that give the bull trout away to our eyes. These are likely easy holding positions for them where they can observe any smaller prey items above and in front of them, which would be a typical spot for a predator to sit. Now on the left side of the screen there's a couple more bull trout sitting on the bottom. If you watch closely, they're so stationary that not a fin is moving. When I first spotted these bulls, I initially thought they might be large-scale suckers due to their bottom-hugging position. As we look around, more bull trout can be seen sort of in the faded background. We'll also get a bit of a closer look at the two stationary bulls that are sitting near the center bottom of the screen. They're somewhat hidden by the rocks, but you can still see them there. A couple small park trout are moving around the perimeter, closer to the camera. If I were them, I wouldn't want to stray too far from those rocks. Now, the white-tipped fins of the bulls give away that there's probably about 12 of them sitting in a line. The smaller fish are about 5 pounds, most likely female, and the larger would be in the low teens, which would be the males. bull trout are sexually dimorphic, meaning that the males are often the larger in the species. Now, what have I learned from this, and how would I fish this situation? First of all, due to the depth of the run and the dark bottom, I didn't see any of these fish here when viewing the run from above. The only one I would have spotted, but didn't because I was busy filming, would have been the splashy riser near the head of the run. I only suspected fish were here without actually knowing they were actually here. Although a couple of the char we saw were moving around when first spotted, they came to investigate the camera. The majority were sitting tight in the deep bottom end of the run. One fish near the head seemed to be fairly active and feeding, rising to the surface. And a couple of others showed signs that they would investigate something new in the environment, but the majority were holding together right on the bottom. They were not showing a lot of signs of feeding. They were ignoring the bite-sized trout par that were moving around the edges of the run only feet away. So coming across a deep pool like this in early fall, I'd have to make the assumption that the majority of bigger fish would be in the deep bottom of the run. Now you might get that one fish that was at the head of the run feeding rather quickly on a streamer, which is what I would expect. Generally the more active fish are at the top of the run and probably opportunistic. But I would leave that area for last because he might be the easiest and least likely to spook fish that's in the pool. With the exception of those couple of semi-active fish, I don't think we could count on any fish moving very far for a fly. A streamer stripped or swung high overhead may work, but would likely be ignored by all but one or two fish. To try and get the most fish, I would work from the bottom of the run first. Given the clear water, I'd want to try and pick off some of those more mellow fish before spooking them. I might swing a small streamer, but I suspect I'd do better getting right down in front of their noses and nymphing a heavy streamer. I believe that's what it would take to spark some interest in the less active char. Then I would move my way up to finally target that active bull trout that was rising on the top. Given the clear water and the less active fish, I'd be sticking with a small streamer, probably a size 12. If that didn't work, then I'd move to something bigger, but given the activity and clear water, I'd prefer to start small and subtle to avoid spooking the run. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video.